Okay, folks, hi, welcome back. So, for those of you who joined me a couple of days ago on the beginning of this virtual journey in Israel, thank you so much for joining me. And for the couple who actually decided to pay for the journey, I really appreciate it. It's going to be one of these things that gets us through the next couple of months. Not the money, by the way, but the reaching out, the people behaving in a way which just makes one feel good about the people one has traveled with and the people that one will travel with. So today, in a way, we're going to take a step backwards because today I want to introduce you to my home. So let me take you just for a minute through the inside of my home. Let's go for a walk through my home. Hi, folks. So I thought what I would do today on the second day of our virtual journey, even though the first time was an outing, was just to introduce you to where I live in Israel. Some of you have visited here, and I hope some of you will visit in the future. So I haven't tidied up the house particularly. I wanted you to see what it looks like in a very normal way. On the walls, by the way, are all types of works of art done by aunts of Orly's, by Orly and by friends. You'll also notice that as we have 5 grandchildren living on the kibbutz, we also have in the corner, for example, a bag of toys that we take out to play with them. I love living in this house. It's a very, very special house. That's Orly's portrait of my daughter Daphne. It's a special house because it's a very much a lived-in house. And it's a house, by the way, that we entertain all of the guests that we have who visit me in Israel. So some of you have been here, some of you hopefully will be here. I did some washing this morning. As you can see, I did some washing up. And always Orly makes sure there are beautiful, beautiful flowers. Let's go outside for a moment. So when I walk out the front door, this is really what greets me. We were at a nursery yesterday to buy some plants. We love our garden, and Orly does wonderful, wonderful stuff in the garden. You'll see that we have decorated the outside of our house in all types of ways, including, for example, an old door that we found in the city of Tzfat. Tzfat, a very wonderful, wonderful place to learn about the great mystics of Judaism, Kabbalah, and also a place to see wonderful works of art done by local artists. So you see, flowers really dominate the front porch and our little garden. And once again, a place that we have great, great affection for. But the house does not only have a front exit, an entrance area. It also has a beautiful place at the back where we have Rosh Hashanah and our Pesach Seders. Let's go to the back of the house. So nothing specially fixed up for today. You'll see over here something you don't really see in America. This is a special kibbutz-made little stroller for infants. It's really very hardy and works wonderfully. Next to it are the 2 high chairs for Asaf and Yotam, our little twins who got dressed up as Thing 1 and Thing 2, our son Elad and his wife Ortal's little babies. And then you'll see what we really love over here is this really long porch, which is long enough to take an entire group visiting for dinner, just like Beth folks did a couple of years ago. We also host people from the Birmingham, Alabama group in the past, and many, many of you hopefully will remember with great fondness your time over here, and also hopefully in the future when you come and visit us. But the great thing of this house is not only the immediate outside, but the area just around it. Let's go for a walk for a moment. Just an ordinary flight of stairs, you might say. Of course it is just an ordinary flight of stairs, but the great thing about this flight of stairs is 2 things. One, if you look back as I get to the bottom of the stairs, just have a look and see the beautiful, beautiful work that Orly has done going up the stairs. But even more exciting than that, of course, for us, is who lives downstairs. So downstairs is the beautiful little place that our daughter Maya, her husband Ido, and their tiny little baby Ronnie live in. You don't get better than that. Now we're heading down, just down below to the area below us, and you'll see straight away something very, very special about the area below us. It's a playground. It's a playground filled with wonderful, wonderful swings and climbing frames and slides. The types of things that mean that young people from the kibbutz, our grandchildren, the 5 of them, and other young people will visit very often. But there's something over here that tells a great story about who we are as a community. So walk over with me for a moment and we'll see something else very, very special. So you see over here there are two strange looking animals. When you look at them closely, they look as if they could be elephants, but at closer look, especially when you go around the back of these strange looking elephants, you'll notice something unusual. Look at the tails. Here's tail of the first animal. Oops, I stepped in a little hole. And here's the tail of the second animal. So the story behind these little animals is that they started their lives as pigs. But when the grandmother of the young artist realized that he had created pigs over here, she was a little upset. Why was she a little upset? As a young woman, an 18-year-old, she had gone on behalf of the chief rabbi of the United Kingdom to help take Jewish kids, save them from where they had been left during the war in monasteries in Europe. She felt very strongly that she did not want to live the last days of her life in a place in which there were little pigs sculpted by her grandson, so he turned them into faux elephants. Having mentioned the later years of life, I want to take you to something that stands right at the edge of the playground, and it actually makes a huge amount of sense if you think of it. So at the edge of the playground there's a nondescript building. You can see it here right in front of me, and there are a couple of little vehicles outside that give away its purpose. This is what we call the Vatican. Not thinking of the Pope, but thinking of the fact that the word in Hebrew for a veteran is vatik. This is where the older people of the kibbutz spend many great hours during the day as they reach the last stages of their lives. And of course, what do we have right next to where the old people are? A wonderful, wonderful playground for children. I think the two of these being so close together says something about the nature of this community. And I'll talk in a little while about what kibbutz is and what it has become and what it means to me today. So I hope you enjoyed both walking around with me inside the house, and I hope you also enjoyed our little walk outside in the front of the house. But I think what you need to understand living on kibbutz is that the question of, where are the boundaries of your home? So the boundaries of my home are way beyond either the front porch and the flowers that you saw out on our front lawn, or even behind us. And this is where the question of what is one's home really comes into play. So for me, my home has a number of elements to it. There is the home within which Orly and I live. Once upon a time, Orly and our three children, Elad, Maya, and Daphne, lived. Today, in a way, the house, even though the two of us are the only ones who live in it day and night, we are so lucky in that our extended family, our little tribe on the kibbutz, lives in it as well. But I want to take you now just beyond the front of the house and the back of the house to show you where the young people on the kibbutz, some of the young people on the kibbutz play, and also to show you a building which really talks about the special way this community is created. So you saw the fact that the place where the children play, or some of the children play, is right next to that building which I explained when we were walking around, called the Vatican. The Vatican, to remind you, comes from the Hebrew word vatik, which means veteran. And in many ways, if I were to try and sum up what is the really special thing about living in this community, besides the ideological stuff that I will talk about the next time we meet, and one of the next times we meet, as we go around the kibbutz, I think the most powerful part for me, besides the ideology, besides from each according to his ability, to each according to his or her need, besides that, what I think is so powerful over here is what family life has become. We are so lucky to live in a community in which many of the people over here live in families of 3 generations. When I've traveled around Israel with many of you, those of you who are my age, or sometimes a little older, we've talked about how wonderful it is to be a grandparent for those who are grandparents. And we've talked about the difference between seeing your grandparents your grandchildren, sorry, a couple of times a year, and actually seeing your grandchildren every day. While I'm sitting over here with Ido, my son-in-law, is helping me put this together, his daughter, Ronnie, my granddaughter, the daughter of his wife Maya and Ido, is asleep upstairs just off our living room. While she's asleep upstairs, Maya, my daughter, is with Tamar and Naomi, two of my other granddaughters, doing some artwork with them in this area in our home that we've turned into a little studio. And just prior to that, Elad was over with the other two, with Asaf and Yotam, who've now gone to sleep because it's the middle of the day. But I want to introduce you before we end this week's, or this today, because who knows how often these are going to come. But before we end today's little walk around my home, I want to introduce you to one person on the kibbutz. And in one of the following times we meet, I'll introduce you to others as well. I arbitrarily decided to walk down after taking the photographs outside, the video outside, down to the dining room of the kibbutz. I'm going to introduce you to one person. Now I want you to meet one of the older people on the kibbutz. So folks, here we are in the dining room of the kibbutz. Once upon a time, hundreds of people descended upon the dining room every day of the week. Today it's a little different on Tzorah. And today, the people who eat here are mainly the veterans of the kibbutz. Now, this, of course, gives us an amazing opportunity because, as you have learnt already, there are no better stories in Israel than the stories of the veterans. Ziva, tell me something. Where were you born?
I was born in Tel Aviv.
Tel Aviv? How many people lived in Tel Aviv? I'm not going to ask you when you were born because that's not polite. But how many people were in Tel Aviv?
You can ask, in my age, it's...
Okay. So when were you born in Tel Aviv?
1933.
1933. So Tel Aviv was 25 years old. About 25 years old.
Yes.
Which part of Tel Aviv were you born in?
I was born in the center of Tel Aviv, New Tel Aviv, and then we moved to the north.
Okay. And if you were to describe what the formative experience was in your life growing up in Tel Aviv, what would you choose to tell us?
It's very amazing now to remember how my street was in only sand, no car. I went by foot every day to school, about half an hour, and back. I was learning in a very special school. And
what was special about it?
It was called Beit Chinuch, education home. It was not in a format of a regular school. One day in the week, we were working, cleaning our classes, working in the field, working in the kitchen. Every day we had lunch.
So they were obviously preparing you for something in your school, not just to grow up and have a job, but what were they preparing you for?
In my school, we were very connected to the kibbutz life. And all the students that grew up and finished school used to come and tell us about kibbutz life. And
so I'm going to fast forward you now because all of these interviews that I'm doing are actually very short ones. So you have lived on our kibbutz on Tzorah for how many years?
I think from 54.
From 54 until 2020.
And before I was 1 year in Hamadia.
Okay, so you have 66 years on Tzorah.
Yes.
Wow, that's as old as I am. And 1 year before in Hamadia.
Yes.
Okay, now, your tribe on the kibbutz today, how many members of your tribe over here? You have how many children here?
I have 3 children here.
And out of how many children? How many children do you have?
One in Ramat Gan, and one now in Bertuvia, and he's coming back to Tzorah. He's building now a house. Yeah.
How many grandchildren on Tzorah?
On Tzorah, I have 17 grandchildren.
17 altogether.
Altogether, wow. And on Tzorah, I think 3. In the Torah, 7.
7. And great-grandchildren?
I have 6 grandchildren, 2 of them in Torah.
Wow. So if you were to tell people something about, how would you sum up your years? Would you say this was a great decision, a problematic decision, a decision you regret? What would you say about your decision to live on kibbutz?
I came to Torah, I went after my love, and there was no decision. It was very clear that I'm coming here because he was here from 48, the founder of the kibbutz, and it was clear that we will live here in Torah. And I must say that I was very glad because of that decision. I was a teacher, and the life in Torah gave me the possibility to work. I was very dedicated to my work. I did not worry about children, about food, about house. I was dedicated to my work.
Right. And I can just add, folks, as I say thank you to Ziva, that Ziva was one of my mentors. When I worked in the education on the kibbutz, Ziva was in charge. And many of the decisions that I had to take, I took with Ziva's help. So Ziva, thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
Bon appetit, because Ziva is now about to have lunch on the kibbutz. Folks, see you later when I speak to some other people from the kibbutz. So, we're going to get to the end of this session on our virtual journey in just a moment, and I wanted to maybe end in the following way. So last time in our first day on the journey, I mentioned the saying in Hebrew, Avarnu et Paro, na'avor gam et zeh. If we manage to get through Pharaoh, we can get through this as well. I want to end with another biblical reference today for today's journey. And in a way, it's really appropriate, I believe, at this moment. So last night we had the most unbelievable storm over here. Trees were ripped up from the ground, one of them falling on one of the buildings on the kibbutz, luckily a building with nobody in it at the time. The winds were howling over here. Talk about the dystopian vision. Talk about, corona all around us and the winds howling and the rain pouring and everything feeling like the end of the world. And of course, what happened after the storm is the sun shone this morning. And I was reminded of an amazing moment in my career working in Jewish education when I was working at a summer camp called Seneca Lake in upstate New York. The parasha, the weekly portion, talked about the flood. And I made a decision to try and teach the moment after the flood, that wonderful, wonderful moment in which there's a rainbow, the rainbow that appears in the sky. And we got the entire camp, all of the campers and the counselors, to dress up in the colors of the rainbow. And we divided the camp up by colors, and we created this huge, huge spiral. It was magnificent. It was a wonderful moment, and it really spoke to the fact that I think we need to keep in our minds at this point. After the flood, what happens was this wonderful rainbow. And the rainbow, according to Jewish tradition, is as it were the sign of, it's a covenantal sign, the sign that after an awful moment, the great things are going to happen. And I want to suggest something. What I want to suggest in these really difficult times, that the dystopian vision of a place falling to pieces will only and can only happen if we stop noticing the people around us. Each one of us has to make a decision to do something lovely for somebody else every day. That's the way, folks, we are going to get through Corona, and that is the way we keep our rainbow in the sky. So wishing you all many, many rainbows, and have a great couple of days, and we'll meet again. I'm not sure yet where I'm going to take you on the next part of this journey. Depends to some extent on what I can do and what I cannot do in terms of the rules that are now in place. But I promise you, this journey will continue at this point virtually, and afterwards, I know that we are going to journey together. Have a great Shabbat, if Shabbat is something you celebrate. If you don't celebrate Shabbat, I hope the weekend is good for you, and see you soon. Bye-bye.